Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The Kipco British Champion Series of 2014 is up and running. And as we know, all roads will lead to Kipco British Champions Day at the end of the season. But the series is already well underway, and next up, the show rolls on to Epsom for a thrilling Investec Derby Festival. We'll be looking ahead to the big three races, the Investec Oaks, the Coronation Cup, and the biggest race in the calendar, the Investec Derby. Lots to look forward to, and we headed to Breakfast with the Stars here at Epsom to catch up with the leading connections. Before we hear from them and get into the nuts and bolts of the big races coming your way soon, let's look back at the series so far, and we start with a really dramatic 2,000 guineas.
And they're off and racing. They run downhill and into the dip. Australia and Turmoil's downside with shifting power over on the far side. Noosa Canarias, and here's Kingman exploding for the far side group. Kingman's come through to lead that group with Night of Thunder Australia under the near side rail. Night of Thunder drifting over Australia and Kingman. They're wide across the course. Kingman, Night of Thunder dives, and I think won the guineas. I think Night of Thunder by odds to floor Kingman and Australia and shifting power. It will go to the judge. Ritzina now under pressure, Manley being pressed by Miss France, Euro Charlene and Isimal as they run down into the dip, then Lightning Thunder. Miss France and Isimal over on the far side of the two, who pour John in the guineas. The blue jacket of Isimal over on the far side, Miss France. Lightning Thunder finishing off strongly on the near side. Miss France just last time. Cuban Eater over on the far side, followed through by Camborne and Coyote. Down to the last furlong they come. Gospel Choir finds daylight. Tax of Watra also running on. Gospel Choir into the lead, edging off a true line. Here's Tax of Watra. Tiger Cliff with a thrust. Gospel Choir inching home from Tax of Watra. Gospel Choir, more hits for High Note, and Gospel Choir wins the Yorkshire Cup from Tax of Watra.
Here comes Olympic Glory, Frankie producing him on the right, and they head down, and Chopin's coming there as well. It's now top-notch Tonto, Olympic Glory, Frankie kicks him into the lead, and here he goes. Olympic Glory is cleared away by 2 or 3 left. Curious has come out of the pack to chase him. Verrazzano is closing as well, but as they race towards the line, Olympic Glory gives Frankie Dettori a 4th knock-in.
Furlong and a half left to go in the temple. Hot Streak out in the centre, running a bit of a solo, is a couple of lengths clear. Pearl Secret chasing them with Justice Day, Justinio, Kingsgate Native and Mirza. Hot Streak leads a Qatar 1-2 at present. Pearl Secret is chasing and getting a bit closer. Hot Streak, Pearl Secret though, bearing down on him. Hot Streak, Murphy lays down the law.
So that's the story so far, and we've already been treated to some really dramatic and brilliant finishes throughout the course of the Kipco British Champion Series. Here at Epsom, I was able to catch up with one of the masterminds behind the series, Sheikh Fahad.
Very exciting. Thank God we finally won one of our races with the Temple Stakes, but we're really looking forward to tomorrow, you know, with the Just the Judge and A-Rod, hopefully.
Tell us about the series. It's been going for a few years now. How happy are you with the state of play with the series?
Oh, we're very happy. I think it's built context to the whole racing year, and the feedback we're getting is very good, so hopefully it just gets even better from now. And on Champions Day, the announcement was made that there will be a new race added to the programme, so Champions Day is really taking shape now. It is definitely, and we've thought that was missing, you know, a nice big handicap, and it's the most expensive handicap from the whole year, so we're very looking forward to it. How important is it for you to see the big runners internationally come to race here in England during the Champion Series? I was very, because I think I've always thought that the quality racing is in England, and it has shown, you know, with the international participation, everybody wants to win them, and especially Champions Day having been won by CS to start off with, and hopefully this year we'll see a lot of more European runners in it. You mentioned Hot Streak winning the Temple Stakes recently, a Champions Series race. I know that obviously you want to win all the big races, but does it make it extra special as an owner when you win a Champions Series race? Oh, definitely, because they are the hardest races to win, actually. We've been trying at it. But no, Hot Streak looked unbelievably well that day, and We're really looking forward to the King Stands with him, or the Jubilee, one or the other.
I'm out on track here at Epsom, and you may be able to see behind me the famous Epsom camber that a lot of people talk about, and it does take a horse really does need to handle this track, because it's quite individual in many ways. It's quite idiosyncratic, and the man who's responsible for preparing the track is Andrew Cooper, who joins us now. Andrew, I was just talking about it. There's lots of sort of dips and
yep.
ups and downs and undulations of the track, and as I say, horses do really need to handle this, and not every horse does.
No, they don't. They don't. It's one of the many sort of tricks and tests that Epsom poses a racehorse, right from the start of the Derby, right to this, finishing in the home straight. I mean, this camber you've referred to, this falls away about 6 feet from the top side of the course down to the bottom. It's pretty uniform. There's places along the home straight where it is slightly more pronounced. As you say, even there is the slight odd dip, even within the last 3 furlongs anyway, before you have a final sort of climb up to the winning post where it just starts to rise.
And we may be able to, if we just come with me, you may be able to see that climb, and you can actually get a gauge on the rise up and towards the finishing line. Stamina is important, so is speed in a Derby, but you do really need to get up this hill.
You do. And the other hill you certainly need to get up is the one that surprises most people, which is just how severe a hill it is from the start, from the 1.5 miles up to about the 7 pole, which is the highest point of the course. I mean, that's constantly on the climb, and you've actually climbed about 150 feet in total from the Derby start to the 7 furlong pole. So that really, just does again emphasise this whole question of stamina. You really do need to get every yard of 1.5 miles here.
Let's just sort of talk housekeeping if we can. If we can get on the ground and just have a look at the stick. We're a few days away from the Derby, but the grass cover looks good.
Grass is tremendous. We've been cutting it, having been cutting it to about 3.5 inches. We've just raised that slightly to a height that this was cut yesterday to 4 inches. We'll generally be cutting this every other day now in the build-up. And ground conditions, as you can see, lots of moisture in the ground. It's ground you would call in that sort of soft, good to soft territory if you were racing on it this second. But really in a good place.
What's your ideal? What's your dream as a clerk of the course for Derby Day ground?
I'd probably say, I think, bearing in mind this is a summer flat race. This is a summer classic flat race, and I think we should be running the Derby on ground on the far side of good. So I'd probably say ground that we would describe as good to firm places. So just on that sort of far side of good, which probably means at a place like this, which does dry quickly, we're probably going to have to be good ground for the Friday for the Oaks. At
the moment, you'll be able to make out that there's sort of building work. If you tractors, you may be able to hear the beeps as well. But this place will be, I mean, from the top down, it will be lined with buses, the famous double-decker buses. You've got a fanfare in the middle. Derby Day is a proper event. It really is, and there are going to be thousands of people that line the downs here.
They will. I mean, it's a bit of a guesstimate what the total crowd is, but we reckon recent years we're talking about 125,000 people here, which sort of makes it the biggest single sporting day in Britain. I think only the Grand Prix actually gets anywhere near it.
Andrew, thank you very much for your time. At the Oaks as well, it's a huge weekend for you here at Epsom, and I hope it all goes well. Appreciate it. This year's Investec Oaks will be run in memory of Sir Henry Cecil, who was a genius trainer, as we know, and sadly last year lost his battle with cancer. Sir Henry trained the Oaks winner on no less than 8 occasions, a remarkable achievement from 1985 with Oh So Sharp through to 2007 with Light Shift. It was a remarkable achievement, and we're going to take this opportunity now to reflect on some of those magical memories.
And it's Oh So Sharp, the 6-4 favourite. Steve Cawthon and Henry Cecil on a real high this week. It's Oh So Sharp who wins the Gold Seal Oaks. Diminuendo and Sheikh Fahad for another impressive victory in the Oaks. Diminuendo wins it. Lady Carla storming clear, 8-10 lengths clear, if not more. What a most impressive win. Lady Carla takes it. As it racing towards the line, she found traffic problems, but she's out of the clear, and Reams of Verse is going to take it. At the line, Reams of Verse wins it. With a 2 lead over Nushki in second, and then Sarah Dubai can find no more, and so Ram River comes home to give Henry Cecil his 6 Oaks. Ram River the winner.
Love Divine has drifted to the centre of the track, but she's holding them off. Calypso Katie can't get near this leader, and it's Love Divine. She's a half length in front. Peeping Ford's run may have come to an end. Holding on Lightshift, and Lightshift wins the Oaks for Henry Cecil. It's Lightshift the winner.
So with the Investec Oaks on the horizon, we're going to get the expert thoughts and views from Marcus Armitage, who's journalist at the Daily Telegraph. Marcus, seemingly the market would suggest that this is Togruda's race to lose, albeit that Marvellous has sort of made her way into the picture. Do you see it as clear-cut as that?
I think it's much more open. I don't think Togruda's, she was very impressive at Newmarket. It was on very fast ground, and the race hasn't worked out particularly well since. True Story sort of did a similar thing in the Fielden Stakes, if you remember, then got beat up at York. We haven't seen her again since. So I think it's much more open than everyone's suggesting.
Who do you see as the big players in this year's Oaks then?
The two I particularly like, Madam Chiang, especially if there's a bit of cut in the ground. I think she'll be the one that's finishing best at the end. My only slight worry is that she was, I thought, a little bit off the bridle early on at York, and the problem would be if she got a bit off the bridle here going up the hill to start with, but she will finish. Ed Dunlop's had an awful start to the season. I think he's just rounding a corner. I liked Amazing Maria as a 2-year-old a lot, and I think she is no way a 33-to-1 shot or whatever she is.
You've actually, many of you will know Marcus as Grand National winning jockey with Mr. Frisk a few years ago, good few years ago. You've actually ridden round Epsom in the Amateur Derby a few times. What was your best finish? I think I was about 4th once. I did ride about 5 favourites 5 years in succession. They all got turned over. Got a worse record than Frankie Dettori around here. We'll keep the faith. He may not be a winner here at Epsom, but he's a winner in the press room, and hopefully he's pointed you in the way of the winner there in the Investec Oaks. Let's take this opportunity now to have a look at some of the leading Oaks contenders.
Lily rolls down towards the last furlong. Madam Chang, though, under Fallon, staking a strong-looking claim on the near side. And Madam Chang now comes through to take over from Lily Rules, who fights on tenaciously under pressure. But Fallon in no mood to be denied. Madam Chang coming home strongest and wins the Musidora.
Togruda moves through and leads and begins to come away. Jordan Princess Uchenna is running on, but a place looks best that she can hope for, and Togruda is extending well. She came with a tall reputation. She made a big impression here last season, and she's 2 from 2 after winning the Pretty Polly.
300 metres left to go, and Itamal has dashed to the front. Fijar, despite a wide run, gets to second. Then Magruma and Mensura on the outside, but Itamal said goodbye, has gone further in front with 100 metres left to go, and this classy filling is romping away with the Oaks. She wins by a space.
So there's a look at some of the leading players then in the Investec Oaks, and you've got the likes of Togruda, whose father, See the Stars, was a dominant winner of the Derby. He was a wonder horse in his generation a few years ago. Madam Chiang, very impressive in the Musidora for David Simcock, who's in search of his first Oaks, and indeed his first Classic. It's an open race, it's an intriguing race, and this place here, this stand on Oaks Day, will be packed. There'll be tension, nerves in the air, so all that's left for me to do is wish connections in the Oaks the very best of luck.
She's very relaxed at home and has a good mind on her, like her father. Her father had the most fantastic mind. I remember him winning both the Chavmont International and the Irish Champion, walking into the winner's enclosure and put his head down trying to eat grass, which is, you know, after just winning a Group 1 over a mile and a quarter, is pretty impressive for being chilled out. And she's that type, and she relaxes well, and she has a nice turn of foot, as we've seen on the films, and hopefully she'll get the mile an hour. So she combines the things you want. She's a pretty good doer and good strength about her, so she's just a nice filly, and comes from a solid old family, Aga Khan family.
A lot of the form has a lot of ifs, buts and maybes about it. I don't think there's any one filly that was massively impressive when the form's actually worked out. I know De Gruyter looked very, very good at Newmarket, but the three behind her have been well beaten since. I think the fact that she'll love conditions and she'll stay well, I think that's all in her favour. And you know, at the prices, I think it's slightly disrespectful to her to a certain extent. But you know, for the first time having my third runner in a classic, it's actually by far and away the most exciting.
There is obviously a stamina doubt. We're pretty confident she'll stay 10 furlongs. Will she stay further? We don't know, and we haven't been able to practice any of that, to say the least. So, you know, she's a classy filly. She's a group winning 2-year-old over 7 furlongs. She'll like this ground if it stays like this, so I'm not worried about that.
It's a small but select field for this year's Coronation Cup, and I'm joined by fellow press room colleague Andrew Barr, who's going to try and point you in the way of the winner. It looks as though we've got a classy field. Not too many runners, but in the form of last year's Derby winner, ruler of the world, we've got a really exciting race on our hands here.
Oh, we have. We've got the Derby winner. What more do you want coming back to Epsom? You know, this time last year he was a bit of an unknown. His Derby win, he was impressive on the day. The form didn't work out quite as strongly as perhaps people had hoped, but he came back at the end of the season with a fantastic third in the Champion Stakes to really, you know, prove that he is an absolute top-notcher. That was over 1.25 miles on soft ground, and I think we all agree he's probably a better horse at 1.5 miles.
One horse who doesn't have to prove anything is Cirrus de Ziegler. Perhaps at the start of the season he had to prove to people that he hadn't lost his best form. But with 2 Group 1 wins already, beating the hugely impressive Trev, beating Olympic Glory recently in the Prix d'Ispahan, this horse is back to his very best, and when he is at his best, he's simply brilliant.
Absolutely. Well, you know, he's a real veteran now. I think we'd all started to think, well, age is catching up with him. He's sort of the Roger Federer of horse racing, because he is pure class, and he proved it again in the Prix d'Ispahan last week. And 1.25 miles may be his optimum trip, but he gets 1.5 miles. Bit of cut in the ground he absolutely loves. So, you know, both he and Ruler of the World won't be inconvenienced if the Epsom doesn't dry out. But, you know, we're all hoping that come Saturday it'll be a lovely day.
Absolutely, and the sun is just trying to poke through here at Epsom at the moment. Fingers crossed we get a sunny Investec Derby Festival. The Coronation Cup, as I say, small but select, and there's some high-class horses running. Let's take a look at the leading contenders.
It's Battle of Marengo with Ruler of the World. Okavango, Chopin for Germany. Galileo rocks Whiteface, but Ruler of the World leads the Derby. From Battle of Marengo, then Galileo Rock, Libertarian from a long way back, but it's Ruler of the World, Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore who lead the Derby field up to the line, and it's Ruler of the World who won the Derby. It's Secret Gesture who leads the Oaks with just over a furlong to travel, and it's Talent, the stable companion, who's coming after the leader. Rafe Beckett with a 1-2, and it's the outsider Talent who moves through the lead for a shock in the Oaks. Secret Gesture and the Lark battling out second, but it's Talent, another classic for Richard Hughes. Secret Gesture noses into a narrow lead. Ambivalent fights back, then the Lark. O'Delith is staying on, closing them down. Ambivalent fighting back, oh so gamely. Rests back the advantage close home and begins to draw on. Runner-up 12 months ago, she'll go one better, and Ambivalent wins the Middleton.
Well, I'm joined here at Epsom by Dave Yates, who's newsboy from the Daily Mirror, and we're going to try and solve the Derby puzzle for you now. And when you look at the lineup, one name stands out. It's Australia, who's been a massive hype horse from Aidan O'Brien and the Ballydoyle team.
Yeah, there's hype and also substance, isn't there, to Australia? Aidan O'Brien, I can't remember him talking a horse up to quite the heights that he has with Australia. But of course, there is substance to that as well, isn't there? For those of us who really didn't fancy him for the Guineas because of his 1.5 mile pedigree, he ran a very good race. He was beaten, what, half a length that day in third, and that was an excellent run. So you've got to take Australia very seriously. Of course you have. He's a short price favourite for the race. Whether he deserves to be quite as short as he is at the front of the market, I think is debatable.
What other horses are you looking at then that could pose a serious challenge to the favourite?
Well, much depends on the ground. If it were to ride soft, you've got to look at the likes of Western Hymn. Obviously, Geoffrey Chaucer is a horse who's shortened in the betting, also from Ballydoyle, on the strength, reportedly, of some very good homework. like many people, I was taken with Orchestra at Chester, another of the Ballador team, which I think is going to be completed by Kingfisher. So those are some. Obviously Kingston Hill, he was 8th in the Guineas. That horse shouldn't be given up on. Okay, he was behind Australia that day, but he's certainly one who will thrive for being able to tackle a 1.5 miles. Andrea Atzeni said things didn't go for him that day and expects him to step up. So those are just a couple really who are going to be very worthwhile adversaries to the favourite.
Australia's got the page for it, being by Galileo, a Derby winner himself, out of Ouija board, an Oaks winner, both here at Epsom. It's a fascinating Derby, as it always is. Dave's pointed you in the way, mentioned a few of the leading fancies. Let's take a check now on all of the Derby contenders in 2014.
They run downhill then into the dip. Australia and Tourmore stand side with Shifting Power over on the far side. Noosa Canarius, and here's Kingman exploding for the far side group. Kingman's come through to lead that group with Night of Thunder Australia under the near side rail. Night of Thunder drifting over Australia and Kingman. They're wide across the course. Kingman, Night of Thunder dives and I think won the Guineas. Furlong and a half to end the Dante, and it's the Grey Gatsby who pushes his grey nose into the lead here from True Story, just a bit short of daylight as the Grey Gatsby edges off a true line. Arrod running on strongly in behind them. The Grey Gatsby leads close home. Arrod is the final challenger. The Grey Gatsby though keeping them all at bay. Another Yorkshire train winner. Western Him has moved through to lead from in second impulsive moment. Then Red Galileo, the leaders losing concentration here. Western Him wandering around, had to administer a couple of reminders to get on top. Is going to remain unbeaten. Jury out as to how impressive the performance is as Western Him makes it 3 out of 3 and wins.
So there's a look at some of this year's leading contenders. And they'll be hoping to emulate this lad, Generous, who was victorious in the Derby in 1991. Let's hear from some of this year's big players, big connections, who are hoping to add their name to what is an illustrious roll of honour.
He's always been a bit of a playboy, nothing wrong with that, quite a spirited horse. But I was happy with him. I think, you know, he belongs in the race. The trip is not a guaranteed with him on pedigree, and I think we have to see. But you can't rehearse a 1.5 mile race at home. You just have to come here and see. And there are a lot of horses who run good races after the Derby that maybe didn't stay. But I'd be fascinated to see how his stamina holds right through there by the furlong pole.
Not every year you're going to go into the Derby with a live chance. You know, and I think this year, lucky enough to have Kingston Hill, whose I think form and credentials are very solid. You know, if you just take the race and post trophy form, it was getting a few knocks early on, but you know, the Grey Gatsby, who's won Medante, and Snow Sky, who won the Lingfield Derby Trial, were, you know, quite a way behind us that day. And even the Guineas run, you know, the Guineas form is working out. You know, often year in, year out, they say the Guineas is the strongest form to go into a Derby. You know, while he was only 8th, you know, he wasn't a long way behind. Again, the Grey Gatsby was behind him in the Guineas, came out and won a Dante. So, you know, I think he's got rock solid form and, you know, great Derby credentials, and, you know, fingers crossed we get a bit of luck on the day.
He needs good ground or better. He's done, you know, he's done what he needs to do. He ran well in the Dante, as you saw. It was all about teaching him that day more than anything. It wasn't there to go out and cook him. So James taught him a very good, you know, lesson going through horses and understanding the game. And he looked to us like he won 1.5 miles. Pete's very happy with him, so fingers crossed.
He seems to have everything. He's class, he's pace, he's a mind, he's obviously pedigree. He seems to have the whole package done. Like, obviously, he first ran in the Guineas, and it was a strongly run race, and it suited him well. But he seems to have everything, and has never shown us anything other than that yet. Anyway. I think in May or June, his times one morning, he worked 5 furlongs. The last 4 furlongs, he done 11-second furlongs, one after another, which was very unusual. And he did that half speeding, you know, so he had to be very special to do that, really. When you see him, what he did in the Guineas, you'd probably say 1.25 miles is going to be in his proper trip, but like, obviously you'd imagine with his mum and dad that he should get 1.5 miles.
Very much the calm before the storm, because soon, out there on track in the middle and here in the stands, will be absolutely heaving. It's a fantastic 2 days of sport. Epsom never lets us down.
And they're off. and Sir Nicholas Abbey will make it 3 Investec Coronation Cups in a row. Talent, another classic for Richard Hughes, who won the Investec Open.